Good evening. We're going to go ahead and call our regular meeting of Tuesday, April 19th to order, and just thank you all for coming tonight. We have a good crowd, and we really have a good crowd from Salem Elementary School. We're really tickled to see all those kids here tonight, and we just thank you all for coming to this meeting. I think all the commissioners are here, and I would ask the audience to silence any mobile devices you have, and if you presenting tonight, either please speak into one of the microphones. We don't have a minister tonight and to give the invocation, and instead Commissioner Britton is going to give the invocation, and of course we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by the Salem Elementary School students. Would you all please rise for the invocation?
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this beautiful day that you've given us here in Burke County. Lord, it has been a spectacular day, Lord, a day that we can see your creation all around us as new life comes into all the trees and flowers and everything that we see. Lord, we thank you for all the many blessings that you provide. And now tonight, Lord, as we conduct the business of our county, we pray that you would give us a portion of your wisdom in everything that we say and everything that we do. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And if the kids would please come up here in front here. If you could line them up down here, we're going to take a picture with the commissioners and that, and let's give the kids a big hand. Item 4 under our agenda tonight is the approval of the meeting minutes from February 25th. That was a special meeting, and I think everybody's had a chance to look over that, and I'll be happy to accept a motion if there's no changes to those minutes. Motion to approve those is printed. All right, thank you, Jack, for the motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes, Madam Clerk, 5-0. Item 5 is the approval of our agenda tonight. There's a new presentation item on there, and Kay, what was that? That was the
That is a presentation from Burke Recovery by
right.
Jim Marks.
All right. And what is the pleasure of the
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to remove item 3 under items for decision. There's a lot of questions come up recently. Seems like we're getting from everywhere, and I think we need to schedule a special meeting. Probably, I would recommend we schedule one for either Monday or Tuesday. Probably Tuesday would be the best.
Tuesday's the COG meeting, I believe, or is it the following Tuesday? Following Tuesday? 28th. Yeah. And Jack, that's in the form of a motion.
It is.
Any discussion on that motion to eliminate the,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask why we need a special meeting?
Well, a special meeting is, I was under the impression at the last meeting that there was going to be a special meeting scheduled along with regular meeting in addition to the regular meeting. So it was put on the agenda by who, I don't know. I guess people took it up on themselves to put it there. So I'd like to see that take place in a special meeting or a work session, whichever is desired.
May I ask the purpose, what are we wanting to discuss?
Well, I hear people, they have recommendations of how many employees you're going to have in the new jail, how much it's going to cost, all that. So we need to sit down and take a look at that and see what's going on and compare.
I was
drive and
Go ahead.
the jail behind the jail behind the courthouse.
I was under the impression that this was going to be a workshop for this. I was sort of blindsided that this is even on the agenda tonight. I thought it was going to be that we were going to have a workshop after this meeting. So I was sort of blindsided by this myself. And I think there's a lot of questions. There's last night I sat home and I had 3 different figures, different sets of figures from different people in the county in leadership, and I swear I tried to make some sense of all those, and none of them matched together. They just I don't know which one we believe, to be honest. I'm personally not ready to build a new jail till we get some of this resolved. There is a lot of questions out there, and people are asking a lot of questions. And I think we got to do what's best for the taxpayers of Burke County and think this thing out. I think we rushed into this thing, and emotionally, we haven't rushed into things like this, but we really, when the city said they were going to close the road, we rushed in and said, well, we're going to go to Government Drive and whatever. But I don't think we really thought this thing through like we should as a Board of Commissioners. And if there's other comments, you feel free to make those comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, correct me if I'm wrong, but have we not already voted to build a jail on Government Drive?
I believe that could be overturned.
Well, it could be, but it hasn't been. Is that correct? I mean,
It hasn't at this point.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just, I reviewed the information. I finally got information I requested 4 months ago. And then there's a conflict of statement on that from what it really would cost. And there are some questions. There's some information I think this board needs to know. We're now being told it's actually going to cost more money, and one of the main reasons we wanted to build this jail, that it was going to cut cost. And the operation cost itself is now we're being told is going to even cost more. And I think a good, and I know we can't have a closed meeting, but a good work session that all of us can speak freely and get some questions answered. I was reviewing this for discussion tonight, and I had lots of questions. We've been dealing with a jail since 2010. We could have built a jail for 100, I believe it was 100, and it was either 148 or 162 prisoners for $7 million. We got a firm quote on the new jail at $14 million something, and now we're told we were told a couple of weeks ago it was 18, now we're told it's 20. And I think we need to sit down and discuss why the increase and why such a large increase in just a few short months. And it's alarming, and I would like to have more contentment with myself before I vote. So yeah, I think a good work session would be healthy for the board.
Any other comments?
I would only say if we're going to have a work session, let's do it and move on. We keep dragging on with this. As Maynard said, we've been on this since 2010. I don't think we've rushed into anything. All the data that I've seen presented to us within this last month that we requested, really cleared it up in my mind as to what direction to head. Amazingly, of the three folks that were involved in all that information, I thought all of them tended to say the same thing. And so I think we can make this decision and move on.
Well, there's one thing that I'm concerned about. There's information put out, but it wasn't put out to all the commissioners. In my case, I didn't get it. I think there's another commissioner, too, who didn't get that information. So we need to sit down and find out what's going on.
Other comments? So we'll go ahead and Jack made a motion to approve the agenda with eliminating under decision item 3. Again, all those in favor of removing item 3, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. So it's 3-2. All right. Does anybody, would Monday night be all right for a special meeting? Or I guess if the COG meeting isn't Tuesday, you said, Johnny, it's a week from Tuesday.
It's the 28th.
All right. So Monday or Tuesday, my calendar is fine. I don't know how, but everybody else's calendar is.
Tuesday's 26th, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Either day, I don't care what.
You sure, Johnny, that
Hang on one second.
I think the COG meeting is on Tuesday, you know?
Let me back up and see.
You talking about the annual meeting?
That's on the 28th. It's on the 28th.
It's the 28th is annual.
All right, so that way we could go ahead and either, whatever's convenient to everybody, Tuesday, would it be all right? And are you free for that? Everybody all right with Tuesday?
Tuesday.
So what time? What's convenient for everybody? Early?
3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Tuesday at 3.
3 o'clock, if that's convenient for everybody. Is that all right, Maynard? Jeff?
I think so.
Johnny?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, so that meeting will be, again, on 3 o'clock. All right, tonight, item 6 is a presentation. This is a presentation from Burke Recovery, and Joe Marks is going to present. Joe, how you doing?
Distinguished Board, thank you for this opportunity to come in and present to you on what Burke Recovery is doing. I know that I sent a letter a couple weeks ago, but you really can't put in a letter everything we're doing. First of all, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but we've been in business saving lives one day at a time for 50 years. And that's pretty amazing that a substance abuse agency has been around that long and that a nonprofit has existed for 50 years. We've had our ups and our downs financially. However, we've struggled and we've come out on top, just like the alcoholic addict has to do, struggle to come out on top. I had all these things that I was going to talk about, but what I really want to talk about more than anything is the effort the last 5 or 6 years that we've done on prevention. And what swayed me in that direction was I've thought about that, but I also heard you talking about the jails. And I hear about the costs rising in emergency rooms. And I hear Sheriff Wisnett talk about 100% of breaking and entering is due to some sort of substance abuse. are either using or they're breaking in to find pills or whatever. I was in a meeting with a woman from the Department of Social Services today, and just as an aside, she said that 20 children were put into foster care from drug-abusing parents who, and all those children tested positive for anything from methamphetamine to opioids, marijuana. And these are the innocent. These are the kids that are getting hurt. And do we deal with those on a regular basis? Do we treat these people? Do we put them into treatment? Do we counsel them? Yes. Do we have success? Yeah, because there are successes. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I say that publicly to help break the stigma of that disease. There is life after addiction, and it's because of agencies like Burke Recovery that I'm here talking to you today and telling you about that. You know, in 1999, I think the gentleman's name was, and I've got it written down here, James Campbell, he was, in his presidential address of the American Pain Society, introduced the phrase, pain as the fifth vital sign. So we have traditional signs: body temperature, blood pressure, heart rate, and respiratory rate. And then all those things can be measured. But what's your pain level? That's up here. That's whatever you're thinking. And the addict, the alcoholic, whatever, can continue to do that. What that did is, a couple years later, the Veterans Administration brought that into their pain clinics, and the whole opioid epidemic started. I was on vacation, and I get the news here, but the first thing that I'm introduced to is when I get home on April 3rd in the Great News Herald, and I love getting this newspaper. I think Lamar's in the audience, so. And, you know, I'm an old newspaper man anyhow. I sold advertising for years. But, you know, 19 recent death-related synthetic opioids. Okay, that's the bad news. The good news is that we're doing something about it. The good news is nationally, but also locally, we've been doing something about it since 2011, particularly on the education and the prevention standpoint. And that's through the Burke Substance Abuse Network. And then through that, we've been able to leverage some dollars to have an underage drinking initiative, where we've gone into schools and really presented to children and to young adults, and that's really where we really have to stop this, because the thing is every person and every child and every youngster and every young adult who can hear our message and not follow that path to addiction keeps them from raising total havoc in their family, total havoc in Burke County, keeps them out of the jails and the prison system. I would bet that close to 80 to 90% of the people in your jails are suffering from some sort of substance abuse and or mental health issues. I don't have those figures in front of me exactly, but I did hear a presentation not too long ago that stated the figure was really high, and I'm saying 80% because I'm downplaying this slightly. And so if we can do and save those people from getting to that point, in the long run, there's just huge savings available. And I just appreciate all the work that you folks do and everyone in Burke County. And I just ask for your continued support. And again, thank you for this time.
Thank you, Joe. Does anybody have any questions of Joe while he's up at the podium?
Thank you for the great work.
Good. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, item 7, we have 2 scheduled public hearings tonight, and they're both from Burke Development. Alan's here from Burke Development. The first one is a building reuse grant for fauna flora as a public hearing, and then there's a second one is a building reuse grant for project SX in a public hearing again. So, Alan, you're at the front, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Commissioners and Clerk and Mr. Attorney. Appreciate you having me in this evening. The first one is a building reuse grant request. We will have the pre-application hearing this week, and it will be submitted on May the 3rd for a decision, I think June the 18th. This grant is for, the request is for $150,000. They're projecting 12 jobs at $12,500 per job. What they're doing is they have purchased the Whippoorwill Dairy, and they're going to be converting that over to increase their production. What they're saying is a 5 times their current production, and then they project a 20% growth over the course of the next several years. So this is significant growth by this company. Average wages for their new jobs will be $596 a week, and they will pay at least half of their health insurance. The total project is about $950,000. One of the really neat things they're doing is that they are putting 40 acres in a permanent land conservancy as a part of this project, and that land cannot be redeveloped, and so it's protecting the waterway in Burke County at the same time they're doing this development work. This dairy dates back to the 1940s as best that I can find, and this company is shown significant growth, and every time that there is an article written on this industry, they were featured in Southern Living. Many times they come from Charlotte to have discussions on these, and Fontaflora is always at the forefront of this. So I think it's a good project for the community, and I look forward to working with them on this.
Good, thank you, Alan. And before we open the public hearing, I'll give the commissioners a chance to ask any questions of Alan before we open the public hearing.
Alan, will those jobs be seasonal jobs?
No, these are full-time jobs. I have the list here of them. I think, let's get to that. We have one new brewer, 2 assistant brewers, 2 people in packing and canning, a tasting room manager, a land manager, event coordinator, controller, and 2 salespeople. So they're all full-time positions.
Any other comments? With that, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Does anybody from the audience wish to speak to this item? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public.
This is for a building reuse grant. They need to have a support and a 5% match, and this is what the request would be for, 5% of the amount, which would be $7,500. $7,500 to match a $150,000 grant. $7,500.
Any other questions from the audience? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the commissioners on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 2016-05 for Fontaflora and approve a contract with Western Piedmont Council of Governments for grant administration, contingent upon that grant award. Further authorize the chairman to execute the contract on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney.
Good. Thank you, Johnny, for that motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes 5-0. Now, on the next one is also use, and this. I'm sorry, close the public hearing. All right, and then the next one is project R-SX.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is also a building reuse request. This is a building that is currently in use. We did co-name this project, so we really, they didn't want to go out public until we had completed the process. This application would be for $500,000. The local match on it would be $25,000, and that would be shared with Hildebrand if they approve it as well. So the request before the commissioners is for $12,500. They would, as I said, be creating 50 new jobs in addition to the jobs that are currently in place. This is a $1.2 million renovation of a structure, and we're looking at about $1.4 million of new equipment, capital equipment that would be added on top of the renovations to the structure. The 50 jobs would have to meet the state average, or I'm sorry, the Burke County average, which is $586 a week. And we are currently verifying that they would be able to hit those numbers. And they would also have to pay at least 1/2 of the health insurance premiums for their employees. And so we are in the application process on this. Once again, it'll be submitted in May, and the decision date would be in June. If one thing that we do have to do is verify the jobs numbers on this, that they will hit that minimum of $586 before we submit the application. But due to the timing, we had to move on with the process for this meeting.
Good, thank you, Alan. Again, any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Chairman, I'd ask one, Alan, do you know if this is in the Klein Park or outside of the Klein?
It's outside of the park.
Outside.
Yes, sir.
Other comments? Other comments? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Again, does anybody from the audience wish to speak to this item? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And again, what is the pleasure of the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 2016-06 for project RSX and approve a grant administration contract with the WCCOG contingent upon a grant award. Further, authorize the chairman to execute the contract on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revision by the county manager.
Good, thank you, Jeff. You've all heard the motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes, Madam Clerk, 5-0. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
All right, that takes us down to item 8, informal public comments. And Kay, I think you have some speakers tonight.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have a number of speakers tonight. I would call Mr. Rico Gillian up to the podium.
Good evening. Rico Gillen, representative with Lake James Fire and Rescue Department, current chairman there. I want to thank the county commissioners, chairman, county manager, county attorney. Thanks for letting me come tonight. Tonight is just really want to reiterate our stance as a department that we are working to get this contract issue resolved. And we are still in negotiation as of this afternoon. I got a call about 2:30 from representatives from Glen Alpine that we are working, or they want to meet again to get this resolved. Up until that point, we didn't have any communication from our last offer, which was the second time we presented our proposal from November 10th that I believe you had a copy of. 21 years into this matter, and I don't know if you like deadlines, but I enjoy them because it means that we're coming to a head. I remain hopeful. The department's hopeful. Our faith is high that this thing's going to get resolved, and we're not going to have to come to this one-year proposal or agreement where there's going to have to be a board between them. So I think it goes on record, the department itself, we'd love to have our entire district back. We want this joint service area resolved, and we'll continue to work for that. Again, we just remain hopeful that this is going to be the time that we get this thing resolved and we can get this matter put behind us and finalized.
Good, thank you, Rico.
Next is Mr. Ken Korn, and he provided a handout that you have.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Ken Korn. I've lived at Lake James for 20 years now, And as Rico indicated, we're anxious to see this issue with the joint service area between Lake James and Glen Alpine Fire Department come to some resolution, as I know you are. I'm also the treasurer on the Lake James Fire Department Board. So what I've submitted to you are essentially a summary of some of our concerns, starting with our position and what our objective is, and then some justification from our perspective. And our objective, well, the objective for all parties to these fire protection contracts is to provide the property owners and residents of a given fire response district, the fire district, with effective fire protection. And we're proposing that the county abolish this whole joint service area altogether, revise the fire response district boundaries for both departments, revise the fire tax districts to match those response districts, and then allocate 100% of the tax revenue from each fire department to the department serving that district, allow each department to establish the applicable fire tax rate for our respective districts through the annual budget process with the county. Our justification: residents of East Shore submitted a petition to the county in June of 2015 with 80% of homeowners requesting that Lake James be designated the primary fire service provider and receive 100% of the fire tax for that service. Lake James has proven to be a forward-thinking organization for 17 years. Despite the Joint Service Area Revenue Allocation Scheme, long-term plans have been developed and acted upon. Such planning is ongoing. It's a continuous process for us. It's not one that we are only now seeking to fund. We've been training first responders, and we now have 12. Glen Alpine has 2. We've invested in defibrillators so that all of our first responders arrive on the scene fully equipped. Lake James has been funding equipment purchases using less than 100% of the tax revenue from the area we serve 100% of the time. Lake James has purchased more expensive types of equipment, for example, four-wheel drive, short wheelbase trucks, which are necessary to address the unique topographical protection needs presented by property in the joint service area. Steep lakeside driveways are a problem. The financial responsibility of our department: examples: extensive use of matching grants to acquire more and better equipment, better and equipment refinance, or building and equipment refinance agreement 2 years ago, which you all thankfully approved, and that will hereby save the taxpayers in our district $259,000 over the course of 15 years. In 2013, thanks to the property revaluation and the reduced tax assessments, we secured a 33% fire tax increase. Effective May 1st, 2016, the Office of State Fire Marshal has awarded Lake James Fire Department a Protection Class 4 rating. Glen Alpine rating is 6, and I think Morganton is probably a 4. The residents of the joint service area, or any fire district for that matter, deserve and pay for fast response from the nearest location by well-trained volunteers using modern equipment. They should not have to compromise, and we would urge you to keep that in mind as we approach the contract expiration and your decisions in June. So thank you very much.
Good, thank you so much.
Judith Glenn. And Patsy Carswell, they want to stand together.
Good evening.
About 3 minutes.
You may know us as the sisters, and y'all all look so familiar, very familiar, because we have helped you and assisted you in all of our Veterans Day activities for the last 5 years, and so proud to tell you that today. And we just wanted to ask you, would the veterans, all the veterans here raise their hands, please? Veterans? Okay. Veterans' families, would you raise your hands? All right. Veterans' friends, you know a veteran, raise your hand. I'd say that's unanimous. Everybody in here, your lives have been directly affected by veterans. We are here today in an open arena that you can raise your hand, that we can wear our shirts, that you can wear your uniforms because of our veterans, because of the freedom and the price they paid. We just want you to consider this evening the position of Burke County Veterans Service Officer. Valerie Keffer has left that position, and I came by today at the office, and the sign on the door says, temporarily closed. And that broke my heart. No door should ever be closed to a veteran. We welcome them back with open arms. Hopefully, you can put that in your budget to allow for Burke County Veteran Service Office. We really appreciate that. And when I came back here, first place I looked for was the Veteran Service Office, and it was right up the sidewalk and around the street. I have followed it wherever it went, wherever it moved, because of the person there. Valerie has done a wonderful job. She provides all of the and plans all of the programs, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. We now have a Veterans Information Day. We now have Coffee for Veterans Day. We have a stand down for veterans that are in special needs. And this is what we need to do. Our veterans provided us with freedom. We need to honor our veterans. So please consider this position. And the last time I walked into that office, we were planning for an activity for Coffee for Veterans. And today when I went by, it is completely deflated. It is lifeless. The door is locked. And I cannot tell you what that did. I am the wife of a combat wounded Vietnam veteran. I'm a proud Marine wife. And I am here to honor him, all veterans today. So please consider this if you would. Put this in your agenda. Put this in your funding if you would, because our veterans, some gave all gave some. Please consider this to honor our veterans. And thank you, veterans that are here this evening. Thank you, families, for standing by your veterans, and thank you, friends, for trying to understand some of their problems that they brought home with them. But no door should ever be locked to a veteran. So please, please consider funding the Burke County Veteran Service Officer position and open the door to veterans again.
Thank you all.
I just have a few things to say. In our involvement with the veterans, we think we're going over there to do something for them. But when you see their faces and you see their physical and mental condition, I can't imagine what they're feeling and what their families are going through. And in my opinion, there can never be enough done for a veteran. With the freedom they gave us and the lives that were lost, we're able to have this public meeting. We're able to have our county commissioners. And I promised my brother-in-law, who I always call my brother, he said, whatever you do, he said, do not ever forget me and what I did for you. Because I know when he came home, and I'm sure all of them went through some trying times, and they weren't always received with welcome arms. I believe every word he ever told me. So if we can just do anything for them, like my sister said, no door should ever be closed, and no veteran should ever be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, sisters. Next.
Rick Craig?
Commissioners, thank you. My name is Rick Craig, and I'm here to talk about the Lake James Fire Department. I represent the residents, the taxpayers, and voters of North Powerhouse Road and St. Paul's Church Road. And let me repeat that. I represent the residents, the taxpayers, and voters of North Powerhouse Road and St. Paul's Church Road. The reason I repeat it is nobody has talked to us about this fire issue before. We are a group of concerned citizens who have somehow been left out of the conversation when it comes to this issue. We have the same concerns as do the residents of East Shores community. We want to be reinstated to the Lake James Fire Department area. We want 100% of our tax money to go to the Lake James Fire Department. Over the next several months, you as county commissioners have a unique situation in front of you. You can remove the last dagger from the Lake James community. These daggers were placed here 20 years ago by one family making false statements and racial comments, completely tearing our community apart. Over the past 18 or so years, we have worked together hand in hand to remove the turmoil that existed among us. Because of the hard work and dedication of volunteers, community leaders, residents, and a strong fire department chief, we are now a better community and have the best fire department around. Still, after we have accomplished all this all this we have accomplished, this one dagger is left, this stupid fire tax that penalizes our community and our fire department by giving Glen Alpine a portion of our tax dollars. It's tax dollars they do not earn, tax dollars they do not get services for, or we do not get services for. We in no way place any fault on the volunteer firefighters of Glen Alpine, and I commend anyone who puts their life on the line to protect others. It doesn't make sense the way our tax money is distributed on this issue. We ask the commissioners to do something that has disappeared from our culture. Use common sense to resolve this problem. It doesn't make any sense to take our tax money right here with our fire department center and send it over to another community for no services rendered. If it is not in your power to reinstate us in the Lake James District, it is in your power to distribute the money in the correct manner, and that is to give 100% of our tax money to the Lake James Fire Department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bryant Lindsay. Take your time.
I want to thank you for the action that you took last night with respect to the schools, and I want to thank you for all the good work that you've been doing at Lake James. If I had more time tonight, I would say lots of good things about you, and thank you for those good things. I wanted to talk briefly, though, about the jail. As I look at the comparative chart that you have here, you're comparing two options. I think there needs to be a third option, and I'm glad that you're going to take a little longer to consider the issue. The third option, I have thought from the very beginning of your discussions, needed to be what you would do if you owned, all by yourself, the existing Burke Catawba confinement facility. At one point, I thought that you could obtain that for virtually nothing if Catawba was completing a jail within a certain period of time. It's probably a monetary consideration would be involved for you to own it at this point, and obviously there would be monetary considerations if you were to maintain it for 5 or 10 years. But the basic fact is that you don't need to have, at this point, 482 inmate slots to do whatever needs to be done for a confinement facility that's owned by Burke, or for confinement facilities that are owned by Burke. And if you do, as you have projected, that you would do with either of the two options that you're considering now, you would, with either of those, you would end up with not only the 256 that would be in that new facility and the 50 that are in the present courthouse, but you would also have 176 in the existing facility. So that raises all sorts of questions as to the best way that you could go forward. Obviously, it's debatable as to whether or not you could obtain the facility and how much it would cost you to obtain it, and it's obviously debatable about whether or not the maintenance would be worth the cost in the long term. But there are other costs which haven't been considered yet either, and those are the downstream cost of building a facility in either place which is oversized, and what that does to how you would repurpose a courthouse if you then had to leave the existing courthouse, which would appear to be the next step that would be argued for in the event that you in fact build at Government Drive. So I'm very grateful that you're taking at least a little longer to look very hard at the issues. They are very important for the long-term interest of Burke County, and I'm grateful that you'll take a little bit longer to look at them. And again, I thank you for all the good work that you're doing, and no more time. I can't say more good things about it.
Thank you, Burke. Appreciate it.
Mr. Marcus Keith.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I am appearing as simply as a citizen of Burke County and not a representative of any organization. I understand, having looked at this issue over the past month or so, that you do have a very complicated decision to make. I commend the commissioners for the brief delay that has been decided on. I would even suggest that it would be useful to have a more extended delay and take some fresh looks at some of these issues. Beyond that, I support the remarks of Mr. Lindsay and hope that you will make a good decision for Burke County. Thank you.
Mr. Howard Morgan.
Thank the commissioners and for listening to us tonight, and won't take much time, but I'm Howard Morgan. I live in the East Shores community, and I've been asked to represent East Shores community, and we would, it's already been spoken. I'm not telling you anything new. I'm just reiterating what some of the other speakers already said, that East Shores would like to have 100% of our tax revenue go back to Lake James. I mean, it's been long enough. 20 years is long enough, and we just feel like it's about service. It's really not about money. If you look at who can get there the fastest, the best qualified department is kind of what we're looking at. And at one time, yes, we did need Glen Alpine. We thank Glen Alpine for what they've done in the past and the service they've offered. And we also have to thank Lake James and commend them for getting a town class 4. That's unheard of for a volunteer fire department. So we appreciate what the community is doing, and we just ask that you support East Shores' decision with 100% of our fire tax going to Lake James. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Howard.
Dan Duncan.
First, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for what you do for our county and the time you put into it. First, let me say this. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I have used our local services a couple of different times, but that's been a few years ago. And the lady that worked there, I'm sorry I have forgotten her name, but she was a great deal of help. And I realize there's a Veterans Center in Hickory, and they do work for the Veterans Administration. The experiences I've had there is pretty much they're doing their time, they're looking for their government retirement check, and they're gone. They do provide a service if you need eyeglasses or hearing test, that type thing. I do draw a disability check from the government for PTSD, and that's kind of a tough thing to deal with. I had to quit sleeping with my wife several years ago because I do fight in my sleep, and that's something that I just can't control because I'm sleeping. I don't know I'm doing that, and I've hit her several times several years ago, and so for that reason we just can't sleep in the same bed together. My first night back home from Vietnam, I woke up, I was on top of her, choking her, and she actually turned blue before I woke up and realized what I was doing. But that's neither here nor there. The lady that was in the service office here in Morganton, she was not actually part of the VA system over in Hickory. And she really went out of her way to care for us guys. And I can't tell you how much that meant for her. But the main thing was she serviced seven or eight counties in this part of western North Carolina. So shut her down over there didn't just affect us guys in Burke County. It affected 7 different counties. And I know here in Burke County that affected over 7,000 of us guys. And in Cleveland County it affected 7,000 of us guys. Now, I don't know how many in the other 5 counties that affected, but shut down this office just didn't affect the Burke County guys. It affected all those other guys. And again, she was a tremendous help. She helped me. Without her, I wouldn't have got my disability compensation at all, which maybe that didn't mean anything to a lot of people. But it certainly helped me out in a lot of different ways. And I don't know what I would have done without her support. And again, there's 7,000 of us in the county here. The thing that concerns me the most, fellas, is I just did one tour, and it affected me tremendously. The guys that are serving now that has done 5, 6, 7 tours in the Middle East, when these guys get to be my age, I don't know how they did it, but there's going to be tremendous problems when those fellows get to be my age. And I won't be here to see it, and I don't think most of you guys will be here to see it because they're in their 20s and mid-20s. And we're talking 40 years from now. I know I'm not going to be here 40 years from now. I don't think a lot of you guys will be here 40 years from now. But it's going to be a tremendous problem because those guys have been there a long time. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear me. I wish we went on this subject, but thanks again so much for letting me speak to you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speakers I have.
All right, so that concludes our public comments, and with that, we'll go to our consent agenda, and I'll turn that over to Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I believe you have 15 items on your consent agenda. The first is clerk reappointment to Child Protection and Child Fatality Prevention Team. Number 2, Clerk Drexel Planning Board ETJ reappointment. Item 3, Clerk Recreation Commission appointment, reappointment, and removal. Item 4, Clerk appointment and removal to the Board of Adjustment. Item 5, Clerk resolution changing pre-agenda meeting locations. Item 6, Community Development Agreement Extension, Burke County and Destination by Design. Item 7, Community Development Approval of Partif Grant for Lake James Overlook Park. Item 8, Community Development MOA for Duke Energy funding support of public recreational facilities, Catawba Water Tree Hydroelectric Project number 2232. Item 9, County Manager Proclamation declaring May 5th, 2016 as National Day of Prayer. Item 10, Finance Audit Contract for fiscal 2015-16. This contract is reduced by $2,000 because of a change in the complexity of the audit. Item 11, HR BDI position reclassification. Item 12, Tax Department EMS Collection Report for February 2016. Item 13, Tax Department Release Refund Report for March 2016. Item 14, Tax Department Tax Collection Report for March 2016. And item 15, Western Piedmont Community College Certification of Local Budget Support Estimated Operating Utility Annual Cost for Capital Improvement Projects, the Pottery Building. That concludes your consent agenda, sir.
Great, thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian on the consent agenda? If not, what is the pleasure of the commission on the consent agenda tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve all 15 items as rendered.
Good, thank you, Mayor, for that motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, that takes us down to item 10, items for decision. The first thing is the Board of Health appointments and removal, and I think that's a 3-motion item under one decision item. I'll turn it over to Kay on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Seat number 5 on the Board of Health, the ophthalmologist, is vacant. An application was received from Dr. Gresham Orison. He's a retired ophthalmologist. Further, William Bill Allman, seat number 11, an at-large seat, resigned recently. 2 applications were received for this seat. The health director recommends the appointment of Adriana Morris, a school social worker and interpreter who has strong ties to the Hispanic community. This appointment would broaden the diversity of the Board of Health in gender and ethnicity. Also, it would make the board composition more reflective of the county's population. An application was also received from Gwendolyn Stevens, and that both those are in your packet. The suggested motions are to appoint Mr. Orison to the Board of Health for seat number 5 for an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2018, to remove Mr. Allman's name from the roster and thank him for his service to the community, and to appoint Ms. Morris to the Board of Health, seat number 11 at large, to complete an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2016.
Good, thank you, Kay. So that's a three-part. We'll go ahead and take the first one, and that's appoint Gresham Morrison to the Board of Health, and I think he would make a good member, and I'll be glad to accept a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Dr. Orson to be a member of the Health Board to fill the unexpired term of retiring.
Good, thank you, Jack. For that motion, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes, Madam Clerk, 5-0. Longtime member, Bill Allman, he's been on the Health Board for a long, long time, and we definitely need to give him a big thank you for his service to the community, and I'll be happy to accept a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we remove Bill Allman's name from the official Board of Health roster. Thank him for his service to the community.
Good, thank you, Mayor, for that motion. Again, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Madam Clerk, that passes 5-0. And the last one is, again, to motion to appoint Adriana Morris or Gwendolyn Stevens to seat number 11, and be happy to accept a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, a question, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Does anybody know either one of these individuals, and would both of them either or be good for the position, or does one have?
The diversity issue, I think Rebecca felt very comfortable with Adriana. We need that on that board. And I really don't know Mrs. Stevens or Stephens. And I'll be happy to accept a motion for that. Please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to follow the recommendation of the Health Director and move that we appoint Adriana Morris to this Health Board.
Good, thank you, Jeff. You've all heard the motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes again, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Item 2, turn it over to Brian again, and this is for additional funding. I think we spoke about that in pre-agenda, and I think Brian is going to take care of that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The school had asked us for an additional $739,564. We reviewed the request by line item and amount, and it's our belief that really the county's actual responsibility, the amount would be of $101,567. I believe the attorney has some sort of analogy of whether these are or aren't the county's responsibility.
I did prepare a memo for the board. I sent it out this afternoon. It probably crossed your path on your way over here. And basically, it's simply a review of what a county is responsible for under North Carolina law. It covers the main thing that, of course, the county is responsible for the facilities for the public education system, as well as related capital outlays such as furniture and equipment. And then there are certain operational expenses that by statute the county is required to meet, and that is school maintenance and repairs and things of that matter. The state has left it a little unclear as to what the county is responsible for otherwise. We do know that if a school system cannot provide a sound basic education to its children, then it it can ask the county for more money to support the system of free public schools. And if the county is able to do that, then it becomes the county's responsibility to take over certain expenses. If the county does not have the ability to do that, then the parties can go to a dispute resolution process to figure out what exactly the county would be funding the school system's current operating budget. I've listed for you several items that are considered whenever you approach a question like this. What the school system is being provided by the state and the federal government, what the size of the student population is in Burke County compared to other counties and compared to what it used to be here, the financial resources of the county and the fiscal policies of the County Board of Commissioners. The courts have said that when you go under this process in the School Budget and Fiscal Control Act, that courts may not require county to fund more than the minimum level of funding for the school system required by state law. So things are murky, and basically the school system makes its request, and then the county looks at them. I would say that if the state has set requirements for the number of employees that they feel is adequate and that therefore they will fund, then the county is probably safe with that. Otherwise, the county is just looking at what's necessary in order to have a sound basic education. It's a tough question, but that's why we have professionals like our county manager.
All right, and with that, any questions from the board, either of JR or Brian?
Mr. Chairman, commenting on this very question, and a question, as a matter of fact. Most of you received the same information I got last night from Western Piedmont Council of Government. It showed the growth of the schools and the growth of all the population in categories. One of the ones that really stuck out was the school-age children of 5 to 17. In the next 10 years, will go down 1,600 students. At 20 students per class. Do you know how many classrooms that is? It's 80. We had I think, a very healthy, good meeting last night with the school board. But I think we probably need to have a joint work session with them that, somewhere down the line that, 80 classrooms is probably 2 or 3 of our schools, folks. I mean, 2 or 3 entire schools that we're going to lose in population. And I guess my question after making those comments so that you'll understand the question, and that is, JR, do you feel that we are supplying the basic needs to run the school? Do you feel like I think the manager's note of 110,000?
101,567.
101, yeah, 101. Yeah, 101,567, and that comes from the general fund balance of Burke County.
Well, Mr. Taylor, I haven't analyzed line items. I leave that to the people like the county manager who do that for a living. If you look at $739,000 in requests, his is certainly more conservative than the school board's. But it's certainly within the range of reason.
Anything else, Mayor? Johnny?
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a few comments. As we studied this, and I commend the county manager for going back, I think we have to differentiate between the state teachers and those that are that the county pays money for. Still have some questions, and I think we need to go to our local legislators. When the state set up the scale for teachers to advance, like 45 teachers stepped up to the next pay tier. I was under the assumption, and I'm still under the assumption, that the state was supposed to pay for that when 45 teachers step up to the next tier. I was under the assumption also that when they give $750 bonuses, that the state was required to pay for those bonuses. And if schools are not being made aware of, if there's a breakdown in communications between those teachers that our county, what we call the local teachers, and that's what we're trying to pay for here, is to match that money that for the local teachers that we've been taking care of so far. I have a real question as to why the state's not offering up the money to Burke County for these increases in their retirement and their health insurance. I'm still a little foggy on that one. I keep reading that all of that was to be paid for with state monies. And Mr. Chairman, I would hope that you would maybe sit down with our local legislators, or you and the vice chair, and maybe talk with them and see where is the breakdown, what's the problem, and what do we as commissioners need to expect, because the governor has already said he's wanting to raise teachers' salaries again. So what are we looking at on the local side if we have to take care of local teachers? I just think there's a lot of questions that we need to have answered from the state, so we can position ourselves and be ready for anything that comes in front of us.
Yep. Johnny, was there any discussion in Raleigh when you were in Raleigh Monday on this issue?
Actually, there was not.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would, I appreciate the managers looking at this, and I tend to think he's probably exactly right in terms of, straight up what is our obligation. But as I, listen to our school folks, you and I tend to workshop with them on a quarterly basis, and I try to understand how all this works. And when I hear them, indicate the state gives an average allotment based on the average number of students, and that's based across the board. And then at the same time, they give, well, you also have to maintain a minimum, maximum number of students in the class. Well, we know what happens when that maximum is met. They have to bring on another teacher. Well, the state's already allocated how much money they're going to give, so they're not going to get any more money for that teacher. The only person left to get that money from is us. And so, I don't think it's really a black and white issue in terms of whether this is, state responsibility. Yes, I understand that. But as I look at all the numbers in their requests, it's also very difficult to determine where to draw the line. I think that we could do a little bit more than what the manager's recommending, based on just, that's the bare minimum. But on the other hand, it's difficult for me to look at their request and say, well, we could do this one or that one or not that one. And this may seem kind of strange, but I might recommend that we just double the number the manager has recommended, and in an effort to try to do something to accommodate the state's requirements.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Jeff, you're saying that you want to double the $101,567 in your motion, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Yes, sir.
And the reason, again, Jeff, for doubling the amount in the motion?
Commissioner Taylor, the only reason is I can't look through all these numbers in the $739,000 request and say, well, this one's better than the other. You know, I know that the school's got justification in their opinion for all of them. You know, use the first 101,000 as the manager has described, and then let the school system decide how to fund the rest of it.
Well, I understand your motion, but I have concerns that, and I think it's important that our citizens understand that we support the school system in everything but teachers. The state pays the teacher. Most of this fund request, let's see, 25 teachers from 33 to 35K, 22 teachers from 33 to 36.5K, 45 teachers stepped up to next year to next pay tier, and all those positions are basically the responsibility of the state government, and I think Johnny's point is well stated. I stated that same point in our pre-agenda. You know, if the state didn't pull any money back, why the shortfall? And I don't think we need to set a precedent of double funding positions that the state collects as tax money to pay, and we ought to pay them from local county taxes too. I just have to see more proof of that. I would not support that motion.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager. We're funding numerous teachers through local monies already.
There are some local teachers, and I can't give you an exact number, but a lot of what the county does is like janitors and other things. Those are strictly the county's responsibility. And when the finance officer, and I, really more him than I, looked at these, he's been dealing with this budget since the early 90s, and he's exceptionally familiar with what's the state's responsibility generally and what's the county's absolutely. And that's how we came to the 101 number. They said that they got cut short $500-some thousand from the state. You know, that's, I think, is in their letter, and what this board wants to do to address that, of course, is up to this board, but, you know, they get the largest single appropriation in the entire county budget, and, you know, I'm glad that things worked out last night, that we're not going to be asked to give another $600,000 just for recurring expenses. That was playing into the budget process, and we have many requests, and this is another one that the board has to grapple with and come to a decision as to what you're comfortable with and what you believe is the appropriate amount.
Mr. Chairman, you know, the one statement I failed to make, you know, if they're legit jobs, if they're legit positions, if they're legit teachers, the state ought to be paying. And I don't think the county, on any situation where the state pays for a position, whether it's a teacher or a state road worker or whatever, we ought to step in and have to pay double for that position. And that's what we're getting into, and I really don't want to start that precedent myself.
Other comments, or?
My comment is, why now? Does it have to be done tonight, or postponed to a later meeting? Seems to be a lot of questions about this issue tonight.
All right, Jeff has a motion on the floor, and that's approximately $203,000, I believe, out of general fund balance. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. All right. It's a 3-2 vote on that against. So we still need a motion to, if we want to go ahead and appropriate the $101,000 tonight for the schools out of fund balance.
Mr. Chairman, I think council and our county manager has suggested that amount. After reviewing the facts, I make the motion that we award the $101,000.
Thank you, Mayor.
From the general fund.
Thank you, Maynard. Again, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. opposed, like sign. That passes 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, with that, item 3 is going to be put on hold till next week. And reports and comments, committee reports. I'll just start out. Jack and I attended a tourism meeting today, and I think Paul was there. Our tourism dollars, Paul, are up, which is good in Burke County. We're really doing well with tourism dollars, and I thought that was positive. And Jack, anything you want to comment on different committees or?
Well, on tourism, the new bus we have over there is making some money now and it's paid for, so it's doing well there. And the future looks bright for that, for requests for people to use it for different events. Of course, JCPC, our last meeting was basically devoted to budget issues, and that's what most of them are doing right now, taking a look at their budgets, which said were fair coming June, and that's about it.
Good, thank you, Jack. Jeff?
I did attend the Smart Start board meeting today. Pretty much routine, nothing out of the ordinary.
All right, and I think on the health board, we pretty well had 3 different things on that tonight. Maynard?
On the Western Piedmont Council of Government, they're getting cranked up, ready for their annual Quality Hour convention, and I'm sure you'll be receiving a lot about that. I want to remind you that the yearly meeting for COG was moved from March to April due to the bad weather last year. They moved it back a month, so if you haven't signed up for that, I believe we decided that was the 28th. Mental health, I sent y'all an information package or sheet on that. The state is requiring further reorganization with that unit. They want to get down from 8 to 4 districts, and they're recommending we look at Smoky Mountain to join with. Parks and Recreation is moving along smoothly. Had some of the most participation they've had in softball last summer. Summer. But they're cranking up for other things now that include indoor volleyball and baseball, softball.
Good, thanks, Mayor. Johnny?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sad to report I was in Raleigh when the library board.
You were here.
The library board met, and then I was in Raleigh when the water board met, so I will furnish you the copies of those minutes when they come out. I would like to report the last 2 days I spent in Raleigh, the COG, all the COGs in the state had a meeting, and the purpose of that meeting was to identify jobs and what we could do to bring jobs into all the 100 counties, and how the COGs could work collaboratively, more collaboratively with private industry, and see where we could move on the job arena. Not only job, was talking about technology, the future. I was talking to our IT director. Within the next 5 or 6 years, Burke County will be working straight off of the cloud instead of working off of platforms, and that's going to be the new world that we're living in. So we got to get ourselves prepared for that arena when that does occur. A lot of technology problems for people in the smaller counties, and how they're going to have to try to handle those. I did attended my first meeting with the State Water Infrastructure Authority. They've only been in existence 2 years. They're making a master plan. The master plan is huge to try to provide water in distressed areas all across North Carolina. I can't give you a timetable when that will occur, but I got to leave here and go back to Raleigh for that meeting tomorrow. Maybe we'll have more information then.
Good, thank you, Johnny. All right, that concludes the committee reports, and now we'll receive comments from board and staff. And one thing I wanted to express my condolences to the Thompson family, who lost David, I think Sunday or Saturday night, and of course David is Mayor Morganton's brother, and have a very successful tax and real estate business in Valdez, and really express our condolences to the whole family on that. And again, Madam Clerk, we'll start with you. Any comments tonight?
Just wanted to remind you that Youth and Government Day is April 28th.
Jack?
Well, my own comment, listening to those people talking about veterans tonight, kind of got home to me. We have a lot of veterans that suffer the same issues that one fellow talked about. And I guess we need to, I don't know what Valerie, I understand she went to the state office over there, so I don't know what the status is on that office over there, where we're planning on keeping it open or how getting someone else in there or not. But if it's needed, I think we need to consider it.
Thank you. Jeff?
I don't have anything.
Brian?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, our HR director, Rhonda Lee, has been in attendance at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill School of Government, and has successfully completed the City County Administration course, which is about a year-long course, and she will graduate Friday. So we're very pleased with her accomplishments and excited about that. And in the years to come, we would like to send other key management department heads so that they can obtain that experience and enrich them to better serve our citizens and our board.
Mayor?
One comment, I think, that I would like to request that we put on our next agenda a revisit to the Burns water system. There's a little hang-up over part of the contract. We need to see if we can resolve that and move on and make some money.
John?
Yes, sir. If I may, I'd like to kind of piggyback on what Jack said, and I would like to request that you ask the county manager to check with Valerie. Now, it's my understanding she is working here in Morganton at the state office, right?
Right.
I'd like to know how many of our Burke County veterans are visiting that office. I know our paper did a great article on it. I'd like to know how many from Burke is visiting that office and from the other counties, to see if we can get some data into a chart so we can take a look at it to see what's happening in that office that may help us decide what we're going to. And I want everybody to realize that was a temporary closure until we can find out some data and see what we wanted to do. But I'm with Jack. As a veteran myself, we need to make sure that our veterans are being taken care of.
I'd like to follow up on Johnny's remarks. Valerie, I talked to her about that before she went over there, and she thought it would be a good idea to transfer the county office to that office because of the situation she was in the building. It was not enough room to really do business with the veterans. So I don't know the story behind that, but that's what she told me.
Maybe we need to work with the state on trying to see what we can get for her over there too then.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to work with it. How to work it out between the two of them.
JR?
I just wanted to take a moment on the public record to wish Chairman Agley and Commissioner Taylor a happy birthday. They're both born in April, and just wanted to.
I don't think we want to celebrate anymore.
So that's 39.
Thank you. Vacancy announcements, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have the following vacancies: the Hickory Regional Planning Commission, the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, City of Morganton Board of Adjustment for the ETJ, City of Morganton Planning Board, ETJ, Voluntary Agriculture Board, Burke County Board of Adjustment, Burke County Board, Library Board of Trustees, Child Protection and Child Fatality Prevention Team, and the Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees.
Good, thank you, Kay. We have down here a recess, but since that time we scheduled this other meeting. So Ryan, can we just again recess till, is it Tuesday, and then May 3rd, and there's also been a we've been asked to have a workshop on the health insurance, insurance brokers, and voluntary benefits as requested at the 4/5/16 recess meeting. So can we recess to Tuesday, is it Tuesday night, and then, or workshops, or what's the best way to do that?
You're wanting to recess to 3 p.m. on April the 26th, take up the matter, third agenda item.
Right.
Okay. I don't know if at the end of that meeting, if you want to recess again, or Madam Clerk, do you have any preference, because that ties up your minutes before you can complete them for a meeting, doesn't it?
I have many to complete.
All right. So we can make that decision after that meeting Tuesday night. Any other business to be brought before the commission tonight?
I'm going to recess to 3 p.m. on the 26th.
So, right, 26th at 3 p.m.
Okay.
All right, with that, if there's, and I don't think we need a closed session tonight, but there's a treat inside the commissioner's boardroom for Maynard's birthday, and with that, I'd be happy to accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Recess or adjourn?
Recess.
So moved, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
all those in favor, please stand up and let's go eat some cake and